judicialization of life is the active intervention of the state in managing, controlling, and determining the lives, the health, the condition of its populations. So, like the pandemic demonstrated, the state will issue circulars how to observe, say, hygiene and sanitation, how to behave in public, the medication to be taken, and the penalties to be imposed if you don't follow these orders, right? So, uh, an extreme form of this judicialization is what happened during Nazi Germany in the form of eugenics. Some of you may be aware of movements such as social Darwinism and eugenics, where the argument made was that, well, there are individuals who are not healthy, who are not of the adequate intelligence required, and they should be prohibited from having children. Think of that. So they said people with lower IQ, people with bodily disabilities or intellectual disabilities, epilepsy, should not be allowed to have children. Preferably, they should be exterminated. So this is something to keep in mind when we speak about the judicialization of life. The role that government has in conjunction with, working in conjunction with corporate laboratories, corporate bodies and laboratories. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. The third is what we have mentioned at the beginning: science, capitalism, and kinship. There are any number of projects, including the Human Genome Project and the Human Genome Diversity Project, which try to ascertain origins of human beings, of various races, etc. And the interest was in knowing ancestry. Ancestry. So they did the Human Genome Project, as some of you may be aware, documented the human genome in its entirety. They mapped the human genome in its entirety. So their interest is such as it is, to ask, where did humanity come from? How did it evolve? And who are our relatives? As in, who are we connected to? The genographic project, which is the term, technical term given to it, is asking us to reconsider genetic unity, ethnic connections, by which I mean the connections between, say, tribes or communities or castes or whatever it is. And let us think in terms of genetic material, genetic connections, rather than through historical evidence and material. So this has obviously been of some controversy because the fact remains that science, or more accurately, genetics, has been given far greater value than, say, cultural connections. Kinship, as in making kin, is based on genetic lines, not on any other lines. It's difficult to ask where this is going because we don't quite know, but we do understand that new forms of kinship and new forms of belonging are being crafted. So, researchers like Fatima Jackson, Kimberly Tolbear, and others have objected to being subject to all sorts of tests to prove that, oh, you are not related to these people, you're related to some people, some sitting somewhere in the North Pole, in Siberia, and things like that. And if you follow the Human Genographic Project's trajectory, this is very much how they operate. And you are told that, well, that is really not the point. The point is, these are not your cousins or your relatives. Your cousins are somewhere else, which means genetic connections are deemed to be more important than social, cultural, and emotional. How do you explain that? How do you understand that? What they're saying is, no matter where you are located, we have always believed that our kinship is based on also cultural understandings, tribal or communitarian declarations. But these people argue, the Human Genome Project argues, that we are all connected genetically primarily. This produces problems, of course, because our sense of who we are depends not on our genetic code but our cultural practices, our memory practices, our art. So when we say, I am so and so of a particular community, we are not talking genetic material alone. That is there. But we're talking about shared cultural memories, shared tasks, histories. Histories. So when we say this is kinship, kinship is also produced through cultural connections, what we call heritage. Heritage need not be genetic in nature, right? Simple as that. So for people like Kim Tolbert and others, all of this, all the social contributions, the social ontologies, the economic connections are crucial as compared to their biological roots. Biological roots are important, but they are not the only or even the most accurate way to determine kinship. Now, for people working within posthumanism, this becomes a major point. It becomes a major point because we are looking at, say, tribal or aboriginal connections. We are looking at caste and community connections. Do you think it's feasible that we rely exclusively on genetic material to do this? No. Our connections are made by having shared cultural memories, our shared literary texts, our shared sense of, say, what is comic in a cartoon, etc., etc. So, people like Kim Tolbert, Diana Heath, and others writing about global citizenship note the fact that kinship is also being reconfigured, it's being redone. And this is important because it has several huge consequences as to how the world will uh, look at kins and kinship. It's not just the bloodline, and this emphasis on the bloodline therefore becomes a problem.